Hello, everyone. Welcome to round number one of the FIDE Grand Prix 2022 in Berlin, Germany. And in this game, we will feature the game played by Vladimir Fedoseev against Gregory Oparin in Group B. Okay, Fedoseev qualified for the Grand Prix through the World Cup because he came fourth in the World Cup, while his opponent Grigory Oparin qualified through the Grand Swiss, which was played in Latvia. Grigory was third place in the Grand Swiss Open in Latvia last year, which was won by Alireza Feruza. Alireza was first, Caruana was second, so both of them already qualified for the candidates. All right, let's get it on. Okay, Fedoseev playing white. He started with a d4. Oparin went for knight to f6. We have a c4, e6, g3. Again, the Catalan opening is back to its popularity thanks to Magnus Carlsen. Well, it started in the World Championship against Nepomniachtchi, where he employed this Catalan. And he was also very successful in the just concluded Tata Steel Masters 2022 in the Netherlands. All right. Okay, d5, bishop g2, bishop e7, knight f3, castles, castles. Okay, this is a typical Queen's Gambit accepted, especially in the Catalan. Queen c2 was played by Fedoseev. Okay, in the game by Magnus against the famous game by Magnus against Geary, Magnus went for knight to a3. Okay, in this game, Fedoseev went for queen c2. Again, for the Magnus game, the knight on a3 prevents the pawn to go b5. Geary went for b takes a3, pawn takes on a3. All right. Then knight c6 was played, and Magnus played a4 with the idea of bishop a3, and went on to win a beautiful game. Okay, here Fedoseev went for queen c2, hitting the c4 pawn once again. b5 protects it. a4, removing the defender of the c4 pawn. Black went for bishop b7. Of course, you cannot play a6 here to protect b5 since there's a pin or an x-ray on the rook on a8. And if, let's say, you defend the pawn on d5 with c6, this takes, yes? Because if takes, knight g5. Bishop attacking the rook on a8. You cannot go knight d5. There's queen takes h7 mate. Right? So that's very important. That's an important detail in this Catalan. So after b5, a4, black went for bishop b7. No development. Giving back the pawn. Takes on b5. Only then a6, since the bishop is protecting the rook, now on a8. Knight c3, developing the knight. Takes b5, exchange of the rooks, takes with the rook. Knight takes b5. Black has a doubled c pawn. Bishop d5, but black also has a strong centralized bishop. That's a compensation for the double pawn. Yeah. So rook d1, c5. To get rid of the double pawn, you take c5, queen a5, heating the knight. Knight fd4, takes on c5, takes on d5, e takes d5. All right. Backward pawn, d5. That's a target for white. b3. Nice move to disconnect these two pawns. Right. Rook into c8, takes. Takes on d4, knight takes on d4. Rook takes c4, queen b1. Black has to be careful because the back rank is weak. It doesn't have a Luft yet. So knight b d7, bishop b2. Isolated pawn on d5, bishop and knight is a better combination than the two knights. All right. Plus the weakness on the back rank. So white is slightly better here. Queen into b4, knight f5. All right. h5, knight e3. Repositioning the knight. Again, hitting that IQP, that isolated queen pawn on d5, with the rook on d1 and the knight on e3, hitting the d5 pawn. Rook into e4. All right, because if takes, and there's also rook takes on e2. Queen into a1, moving out of the pin. The battery on g7. h4, bishop d4, h3. Okay, I think this is the decisive mistake from the black side. There was nothing wrong with taking on g3, takes on g3, and then just probably just go back, protect the back rank with rook e8, and everything is just fine. Although white is still better in the game because of the IQP on d5. But with h3 now we have two weaknesses, one on d5 and one on h3. The principle of two weaknesses, yes. This pawn on h3 can be taken later in the game. Right, f3, nice move, hitting e4 and also g4, right? Rook e8, king f2. Now there's no problem with that pawn on e2. It's protected by the king now. Queen goes back to e7, double up on the e file so that the knight cannot move. Queen c3 first, queen into e6, rook to c1, also controlling the open c file. Queen goes back to e7, rook to c2, protecting e2. Rook goes to b8, queen a1. Black was playing safe, also not allowing any infiltration on the first rank. Yeah. Rook goes back to e8. This is just maneuvering here. Queen c3, queen d6. Nothing special. Queen d3, control of the f5 square. White can play queen f5 and hitting the pawn on h3. Queen goes to b4. Queen f5 is not possible because this queen takes d4. All right. Queen d2. Black doesn't want to trade. Okay, rook c1, or else black has queen h1, queen h2. Sense of danger. Queen g6, nice timing with queen c2. Queen h6, queen f5. Finally, that queen on f5. Okay, this queen will be stuck on h6 because the queen is keeping an eye on h3. Two weaknesses here. One on d5 again and one on h3. But you cannot take d5 yet because the queen is also pinning that rook on c1. Knight goes back to f8, rook c2. Moving out of the pin, defending e2. Knight goes to d7. A pawn is a pawn. Picking up apples one by one. All right. So now we have the majority, 4 against 3. Okay, queen g6, rook to c1. White is not allowing this queen b1, right? Queen into a6, rook a1, all right. Because there's a danger on e2 with this rook and queen. So move it away, right? Drive it away. Queen goes back to g6, rook to d1, queen a6, queen f5, hitting the h3 pawn. Queen into a4, queen g4, nice move. The thing is that it's attacking mate on g7. It's also protecting d4. Yep. Coordination of the queen and the bishop. f6, rook a1 once again. That annoying queen, drive it away. Queen goes to b5, rook a7, rook on the 7th rank. Look at this combination. Queen and the rook with a pin on g7, right? Bishop protecting the rook. Wow, perfect harmony. The knight is blocking the threat on e2. Nice one. Knight goes to e6, knight f5. Pressure on g7. Knight goes to g5, and the final move at bishop e3. And opponent was like, okay, I surrender. Well, he could continue, for example, if let's say the knight goes back to e6, the queen will get inside g6 and hitting the rook on e8. Yeah. You cannot defend, for example, knight f8 hitting queen protects the rook because this rook takes g7, yes? Takes and takes. So this is an unfortunate place for the knight. And if let's say the rook goes to f8, for example, there's knight e7 check, king goes to h8, rook to a4, right? Nice move, rook to a4. Why rook to a4? You distract the queen. You're threatening rook h4. If queen takes a4, queen h5 is mate. Right? This is resembling the Anastasia's mate, yeah, when the knight is here taking away this squares. Yeah. All right. So with that, Fedoseev leads the group along with Utazek, who also won with the Catalan in round number 1 of Group B. Group A, both games were drawn. Group C, Aronian won an important game against Vidit. And in Group D, both games were drawn. Wesley Saw against Dominguez was a draw. Hari Krishna also against Shiru was also a draw. Okay, it's the format is a double round robin for the pool. Okay, for the 4 groups, yeah. And the winner of each group will qualify for the second stage. All right. This tournament will end on the 17th of February, so it's still a long way to go. Anything can still happen, but a win is a win. It's a good start for Fedoseev. He is actually very consistent. Yeah, he is in good shape. Last year in December, he won both the Rapid and Blitz in the Sheikh Hamdan bin Rashid Cup in Dubai, and he also won the same tournament, Blitz and Rapid, in Abu Dhabi. All right. So that's the wrap up for round number 1. I will see you guys in round number 2. And again, please continue to support our channel, Charles Smash Chess, on Facebook and on YouTube. And thank you again for your support. This is Coach Oliver. I'm signing off. Stay safe, everyone. Bye.